This is my book. This is the proof of my book. I'm pretty sure. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. This is my first book. Oh my goodness. Leaders and Thinkers in American History. 15 Influential People You Should Know by Megan Duvarney Forbes. Ooh, look at the back. I love the back. I think I love the back even more. It has even more pictures. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Oh, the art is so good. This is amazing. I wrote this. Why do I have other books on my table? Get off. I'm just gonna leave that right there. This is so cool. I can't wait to see this in the hands of students and teachers and parents and whoever. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so excited. Yay, you guys, it's here. We've got my new book in my new office. I'm testing out this setup. I don't know. I haven't gotten my camera out in this new space yet, so we'll see how this goes. I don't know. But anyways, we want to talk about this today. I am so excited to have this in my hands. Here it is. Leaders and Thinkers in American History, 15 Influential People You Should Know. And it's got my name on it. I've never seen a book with my name on the cover before, so this is really cool. I just thought we would do a little bit of like a tour through the book today, answer a couple of questions that you guys left on the last video and just on like Instagram. Since the book has come out, it's now available for pre-order. So thank you guys so much for all of your amazingly sweet comments on the last video and just on Instagram this week. And thank you so much for just like being excited with me and for ordering your copies and like recommending it to other people. I know a lot of people are just like, you know, getting a copy for their niece or somebody else that they know, even if this like isn't technically your like curriculum or if you're not a teacher or whatever. So that's been really cool to see, just to know that it's going to be in the hands of some really amazing young people. So just to give you a little bit more background on it, it's basically the beginning of June right now, and this process started almost exactly a year ago. So pretty much, yeah, it was the month of June 2020. And this book came about in a little bit of a different way than like a novel would. So some people are writers and they like write a novel and then they try to get a publisher and they'll like submit their manuscripts to a publisher. This process was a little bit different. So this publisher specifically does books for students and like young readers that are nonfiction, and they've kind of worked out the best way to do that, like the best format and length and stuff like that. They just kind of know like what's going to work well for students. And so they were looking for a historian slash writer, probably like preferably teacher, that could research 15 Americans kind of across the span of American history and find the details that would be interesting to 8 to 12-year-olds and construct a story out of this information and, you know, put this together in a book that would be useful for teachers and for students in this age range, this like 8 to 12. And so they asked me if I could do it, and I was like, yes, this is kind of like right in my wheelhouse, you know, this is my area of expertise. I have a master's degree in US history, so I was like, let me take a look at the outline. And we had 15 people. I got to kind of work collaboratively on the outline and include a few more people that I thought would be useful for students to see, maybe to see their own identities reflected in a book like this, or just to like learn about people a little bit different than you tend to learn about in a US history book. So it was fun to get to work like that with the editors and the fact checkers and like sensitivity readers, and then people who just know how to write for this like 8 to 12-year-old market. I tend to actually write more for adults, right? Usually my audience is like other teachers, but it was really awesome to be able to use the skills that I have when I'm adapting information for my students who are middle schoolers, and then put that into like a book form. So this was really cool. So kind of the idea behind the book is that you get a bit of an overview of the history of the United States through the lens of 15 different people and what they lived through. It's interesting because in a single lifetime, you tend to live through like multiple major events in US history. So, you can just write about like the Civil War, but you could also write about somebody who lived during the time period before that and what that was like. And maybe there were like tensions within their own family, like with Ulysses S. Grant, for example. And then you also write about the Civil War, and then you also write about Reconstruction and what it was like after the war. So I always really like the biographical lens of looking at US history. That's what I did with like my master's degree. I looked at the history of the Virgin Islands and the civil rights and citizenship issues that were going on there, but like through the lens of one person who lived under Danish rule when he was younger, and then as he grew up was now under the rule of the United States, and his education and how that affected him and what he did to try to change things. And so this was kind of like, yes, this is exactly what I love to do. And so I got to write about these 15 amazing people. So the process takes about a year, right? Because I started it in June of 2020, and it will officially be like printed. All of the copies and everything will be shipped to you on June 22nd of 2021. And that's pretty quick, I think. I think we did a really fast job. I think sometimes it takes a lot longer. But let's look at the 15 people. I'll just give you kind of an overview. I'm gonna scoot up here. Let's just like look at the cover as well. Like, can you imagine if for some horrible reason I had like gotten a really ugly cover and then I had to like find ways to take cute pictures of an ugly cover? That would really suck. But this cover is beautiful. I love it. I love this illustrator. Her name is Amanda Lentz, and I mean, just look at this. It's great. It's like all in my color scheme and everything. It's just beautiful. And then all of the little details. Look at this lavender. Look at these little stars. I want like a notebook with this design. It's just so cute. We've got a little Jensen dedication. It's really cool to have like those little things in there. And here is our table of contents. So the 11 people included in this book: George Washington, Tecumseh, Lucretia Mott, Ulysses S. Grant, Harriet Tubman, Thomas Edison, Ida B. Wells, Dorothea Lange, Louis Armstrong, Rachel Carson, Daniel Inouye, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King Jr., Sandra Day O'Connor, and Maya Lin. And then there's a list at the end of a few more people that your students might be interested in learning about after this. I got to write the introduction. At first it was like very pandemic specific and like 2020 specific. Like this book and researching for this book like really got me through the turmoil of 2020. It was and is still such a tumultuous time. And so reading about people who used their talents and used their skills to make change and just make their communities better was really nice. I was glad that I was like submerged in the lives of these people for so long. Really helped me out a lot. So these are the gorgeous illustrations. They're just so beautiful. Oh, I forgot to show you the very first page. Okay, like look at this. That is exactly like how I would have labeled like a notebook of mine for a classic. I would have written that right there and drawn like 3 little stars exactly like that. Like it's just so funny. I'm like, this is so me. So we won't go through every single chapter. You're gonna have this book in your hands very soon anyway, but as you can see from my last video, which is a year-long vlog of the process of writing this, I didn't want to shy away from the harder to deal with aspects of some of these people. So I tried not to sugarcoat everything about these people's lives. So your students may have questions, about the things that they might not have known about George Washington that we will discuss in this book. So each person has a couple pages, and then there are some like historian tips. So things that I use to help me research. So like this Explore More. The Mount Vernon website, for example, is amazing. And then like tips for you. So, former presidents will have their own libraries that are like museums that you can visit. So as a teacher, this might be useful for you. As you go through each person, there's a lot of resources for directing your students towards ways that they can learn more, or maybe like places that you can go to learn a little bit more about each of these people, or like, you know, bring some of these things into your classroom. Look at this artwork. I can't even get over it. Lucretia Mott, I love her. I think what I'm gonna actually do over the summer is make shorter videos dedicated to each person in this book that you could use like with your classes, and create some like accompanying materials. So start off by just getting the book, and then I will try to create some more ways for you to use this book in your classroom. So those ideas are working their way into reality. Trying to get to that point. If you have any specific things that you think would help in your classroom to help you use a book like this, let me know. I really, really love this portrait of Rachel Carson. She was so cool, man. I really love her. I got to know all of these people that I wrote about, and I really love them. The final person in the book is Maya Lin, and you probably know about her from the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C., but I didn't know how many other amazing things she did. There's a lot of interesting stuff that has happened in her life so far, so I also really love that chapter. So then I also gave you a list of more inspiring people to explore, so your students can kind of flip through this, see a few more things. There is a pretty extensive glossary with some of like the historical terms and vocabulary that they may not know. And then I also included a list of resources. So if your students are into history, or if you would like to get more books for your classroom in addition to this one, this is a list of some of the resources that I used. So this is kind of like, you know, just like a blog post within the book. Some really great books that I recommend, as well as some websites, some podcasts, Netflix shows, actual places that you can visit, museums. So for a teacher, this is going to give you a lot of options and point you towards a bunch of different resources. So I think it's really handy to have it all together. And then if you are kind of, you know, wondering where I did my research, like how did I find the information that's in each of the chapters, we do have the references page. And so these are like the books that I read for each person. There was even more that I used bibliography wise, but these are just like the main and most accessible books that you could also look up for additional information about each of these people. And most of these books are not student friendly. They're more written for historians and for adults and teachers. So that references page is more for you. And then we have an index at the back, so you can find different people mentioned and what page they're on. And then we've got, you know, the about the author page and the illustrator page, our acknowledgements and all of that. So, you know, that's just, it's really fun to have that published. And then of course, the other day I had to get a manicure that matched the book. I mean, are you shocked? Is that so surprising that I would get my manicure to match the cover of my book? I love the color scheme and everything, so I think this is just gonna be a fun one to have in your classroom, or to have, you know, in your kids' library if you wanna get it for one of your own children and just have it at home. Like, it's just, it looks cool. I think this looks cooler than, you know, some of the history books that were available when I was growing up, that maybe there was some good stuff in there, but you had to kind of like get past like the boring cover. I think this one is pretty fun to just pick up and look at, and it kind of grabs your attention. Yay, lawnmowers. A few people at my school like saw the book on Twitter and stuff, and so one teacher today was telling me like she was so happy to see an Asian woman on the cover of a book, and so she was really excited to buy this for her daughter, and just to have, you know, somebody that looked like her on the cover of a very like American history book. Historically, that's not always been the representation, even though that's been the reality. So that was something that we tried to be really intentional about with this book, was to make sure to show the experiences and the contributions of Americans from all walks of life as much as we could, with only 15 people for the entire history of the United States, you know? So it's not perfect, of course. There are still more books that need to be written, and there's more representation that needs to be out there and more stories that need to be told. And so we'll continue to do that, but I'm proud of this little piece of US history, like curriculum and representation, and I think that it will just be cool to see this in the hands of students and teachers and parents, and I mean, maybe even some adults are just like, hey, I would rather read a book like this than, you know, a boring one written for adults. I don't know. And something else that I kept in mind as I was writing this is, you know, I teach 8th graders who are sometimes like 14, 15, which is above the age range that we were like targeting this towards. This is, you know, technically labeled as 8 to 12-year-olds. But I was thinking about my students who are sometimes 14, 15, 16, that have a reading level that's more about right here, but maybe they don't want to pick up a book that's written for 10-year-olds because it just like doesn't have anything interesting or engaging for them in it. Like maybe it doesn't contain challenging ideas or like interesting things about people that they want to learn about, but it's at their reading level technically, you know? So I wanted to make sure that it was also like appropriate for those older kids who just maybe need that information at a reading level that's a little bit lower than a college history book or whatever, you know? So sometimes that can be hard to find. I know that history teachers struggle with that sometimes, to find the appropriate materials that are on topic but are also at the appropriate reading level. And so hopefully this fills just like a little bit of a gap in that area. We'll see. So, you know, I'm looking forward to just like seeing the book take on a life of its own and have students read it and use it, maybe in like English classes if you're studying nonfiction or studying biographies or whatever, it'd be great for that. But then also good for history classes, or maybe in elementary school for just a social studies unit. You could pick out 1 or 2 people per month or something like that, you know, and just do a little bit at a time. I think that would be a really good way to go through it as well. So that's the exciting part for me, is to see like, you know, how different teachers decide to use it or how different students decide to use it. So yeah, thank you guys again just for being excited with me and for watching the process in the last vlog. And I'll definitely have more history teaching related content coming up this summer. I've got some ideas, especially now that I have this under my belt, and it's just like one more thing I can check off the list, because this has been one of those just big things taking up space in my mind for the last year. So, you know, like that you also can't really talk about. So I'd be like, there are some big things going on, some big projects, I'm always stressed. And part of that was this. I just like couldn't really say anything until now. So, oh, it feels so great to have it out into the world. I'm not a very good secret keeper. So, of course, this will be linked down below. The link down below is an Amazon link, but I have also heard quite a few people say that they have ordered it through their local bookstores. It's going to be available through Target and Barnes & Noble as well. So wherever you like to buy books, it will be available there. And I will just also leave a link down below for easy access to Amazon and the ebook version, which will actually be out on June 8th, I believe. So if you get like the Kindle version, I think your ebook version, you can read it even earlier. So thank you again for your support, and we are so excited. Have a good day, you guys. Bye.